What is going on, everybody? Thank you for tuning in to another edition of On the Road to Victory. I am your host, Jimmy Smith, and I hope you're all having yourselves a great weekend. Hope you had a very happy St. Patrick's Day. But we're here to talk some birds and some free agents, ladies and gentlemen. We've got a lot of them. So, going to go through the list, the entire list of defensive players. We did this with offense yesterday. So you can see over here, defensive linemen. And that's interior. The edge rushers, I'm going to break it all down. You got defensive tackles, nose tackles, the edge rusher, everything. I separated it, the linebackers, corners, safeties, and then I will give you my top 15 as we go through the positions, just like we did yesterday. So appreciate each and every one of you taking the time. Thank you for hitting that like button, subscribing, everything you're doing to support this channel. I can't thank you enough. But let's get this thing rolling. I'm going to try to make this one within like 20 minutes here. So let's go, baby. But I appreciate each and every one of you. Let's rock and roll. And as I mentioned, as I go through, just like yesterday, when we're in a position, I will tell you who the top options are. And by the end, you will have 15 guys. But each position has a certain amount of guys I picked. So you'll see just as it went yesterday. But let's rock and roll with this. And so there'll be like 3 at one position, 2 at one. So you'll get it in a second here. But let's rock and roll, baby. All your questions, comments, whatever's on your mind, let's hear it. But let's start it off with the interior defensive lineman. And you know, for the Eagles, losing Javon Hargrave, that is huge. Probably going to lose Linval Joseph and Ndamukong Suh. So, hey, look, I'm excited about Milton Williams, Jordan Davis. You're getting back Fletcher Cox. So, yeah, let's rock and roll, though. Some options out there available. You've got lots of guys that if you're looking for somebody inside, man, Covington, Huggins, Ford, Hand, Harris, Ioannidis, Pico, Stallworth, Street, Sue, Taylor, Watts, and Zimmer. I mean, Derek Notty's there, Super Bowl. Douche. I can't stand it every time I see somebody from the Chiefs, but he is good. But it makes me want to just puke thinking about that game. So let's pretend I didn't even say anything about it. So you see the defensive tackles there that are available, but we've got some nose tackles too. Not to say these guys can't, play a little of those techniques. We're talking nose tackle, your 0, 1, 2, your inside guys that are just beasts. And, Linval Joseph, he can dabble in the arts. Brandon Williams is a monster. Corey Peters, Jordan Phillips, these versatile guys that I think with Sean Desai being able to be versatile and move across the line into different techniques, not to get too technical on you, but just essentially moving into different positions where you're in front of the center guard. So I think that these are your bigger guys that can take on, the 1 gap. You've got guys that can play the 2 gap too. So you definitely got some talented guys. And then I did make a list of defensive ends, but they were playing defensive end in those odd fronts. And we're going to be running a lot of odd fronts this year. So these are the guys that could be considered defensive tackles in certain scenarios, but they play some defensive end too. So they have pass rushing capability. You see Calais Campbell was let go. He's like 37. Patrick O'Connor, Quentin Jefferson, Akeem Hicks, William Golston. I think Gotsis just re-signed with the Jags, but too bad. Already made this graphic. But you see the available free agents there. And for me, this is a position where you could definitely look to add some free agents. You could look to add into the draft. But I think for me, you've got a lot of young talent here. So we'll see. Wondering, CJ, yeah, no doubt. We all are. What is going on, my man, Jadis? Hope you're doing well. What is going on, Nina? Appreciate you tuning in. Hope you're having a great weekend. The same goes to you, Liz. Happy Saturday. Happy St. Patrick's Day. If I didn't see you guys last night, hope you all enjoyed the holiday. Got to spend some time with the ladies, so it was a nice holiday for me. But I'm going to jump into this with these top options because for me, you have the younger guys, as I just mentioned, Marlon Tuipulotu even, and you've got Fletch, but you had another veteran. I feel pretty comfortable. But again, I would, if some guy falls or you have somebody in the draft you want to take, go for it. But there is someone that comes from, the Seattle Seahawks, where, obviously our defensive coordinator just was last year. He spent a lot of time in Denver, but he started with when they were Oakland, the Raiders, but the 7th round pick back in 2014, coming into his 9th year. He's 31. So this would be a depth piece, but the familiarity with the side, maybe he brings somebody over that he is familiar with. So wanted to throw him on here on the list. I've got 4 of the interior guys. So went with him at number 4. And then number 3 here, you've got Akeem Hicks, who has familiarity with the side when he was in Chicago. So I think another guy where, look, he's still got some left in the tank. He's 33. He's going to be his 12th season. But again, he provides versatility on the line where, again, you're going to see those multiple and a lot of odd fronts, but the multiple fronts. So you'll see some even, but this guy can move all across the line. You can have him from, I wouldn't necessarily want him in one, but maybe like from 2 to 5 technique. You can really get away with doing a lot with Akeem Hicks still at this age. But again, a veteran guy who maybe would take, a pay cut to come win a Super Bowl, just like you had Sue and Joseph last year. But I still think he's got some left in the tank. So maybe you could convince him to come here and play with the side, though. So we shall see. But then at number 2, I've got Matt Ioannidis. And I think that I have these mixed up because I wanted him at number 1. But let's talk about him anyway. From Temple, coming into his 8th year, 6'3", 310. And I did want to have him at 1 at one point. And then I was kind of, going back and forth. I thought that I did, but this is fine because he is good. 5th round pick. We all know. We remember him with Washington forever. But I think this dude, another guy, you talk about that versatility, moving across the line. That's something that we would like to have on this defense, and I think he would be a perfect candidate. Now, we're guessing this is number 1 now, Poona Ford, 5'11", 310. He's only 27 years old coming into his 6th season. He was undrafted in 18, but again, another guy from Seattle, and I think he is just getting unlocked. And this dude, he can pass rush, stop the run. He's a little bruiser, and you could use him in nose tackle at times. I think this kid, you could use him in, maybe all the way to the 4 technique, 1 to 4. I really think that this kid is talented, and if Desai wants to bring, some guys with him, I think this could definitely be one of those options. So that was the top 4 I have there. So I've got 11 more guys to roll through, and we've got a few more positions to roll through. So we're going to go next into the edge rushers here. And clearly you just saw a couple defensive ends, but these are the true edge rushing defensive ends here. You've got guys like Addison, Bauer, Clark is still there, Jadeveon Clowney, Carlos Dunlap, got Dante Fowler, Robert Quinn, Jordan Willis, and then Rasheem Green. You see picture there, Muhammad, Yannick Ngakoue, J.J. Watt. So you've got edge rushers there, and then some guys that played outside linebacker last year. So essentially they could play DN. They're edge rushers. But in this scheme, we want some guys like this possibly, and you want guys that are versatile. So outside linebackers, Leonard Floyd is out there, Bud Dupree, Melvin Ingram, Terrell Basham, Carl Nassib, Stephen Means, and he can play DN. We know that. JPP is out there. So a lot of options here. And for edge rusher, I feel pretty good when it comes to the Eagles. So this isn't something I feel we need to do too much in, just due to the fact that you've got Josh Sweat, Brandon Graham, Derek Barnett, and then the back end of Teron Jackson, Janarius Robinson, Matt Leo competing to see who can get maybe a 4th spot. Then on the other side, you got Reddick, Johnson, and Johnson, and I feel comfortable there. So it's not a position of need, but what we talked about is if you're going to go somewhere, it's in the draft. So don't think you need a free agent too much here, but if you're going to go for somebody, and again, one of those veteran guys that maybe would sign a little bit cheaper, Carl Nassib, experience at DN and outside linebacker in multiple fronts. So he could definitely fit in here, 6'7", 275, and he definitely helped as a rotational piece last year for the Bucs. And again, as a rotational piece on the cheap, maybe you add someone like him, and then someone that's definitely going to cost you a lot cheaper than that. Number 1 here, I only have 2 edge rushers, but Rasheem Green. So for me, this kid's very intriguing. I think that you could definitely try to unlock something, because I've seen it. 3rd round talent, but I think he's really shown something special. And for me, if you're going to add someone just, to add to the rotation, that dude could push out Barnett now with the way his contract's set up. He, still be here, but the more the merrier. But again, not super interested in the edge rushers here in free agency, but I think that if you're going to, there were a couple options that I wouldn't mind. I am doing well. Appreciate that, my man. Hope you had a great weekend. Imagine we get Tuli Tilapu. Thought you said Tuipulotu. Wow, it's very small down there. But yeah, man, I'm imagining a lot of great things in this draft for sure. What is going on, my man Tim? Hope you're doing well. Went through your questions last night. Hope you got to check that show out. But on to the linebackers. And dude, obviously we lost both of our starters, but Nakobe Dean going to be stepping it up. You've got Sean Bradley here. You've got Davian Taylor. You've got Christian Ellis. So slim room beyond Nakobe Dean. So I would probably, again, as I've been saying a million times, and we talked about this position last week, add to the linebacking room with a free agent and in the damn draft. So for me, lots of options here. This one, man, is these are 3 pages here. And obviously we went through 5 guys, so we have 10 guys left remaining. So I'm going to give you my top 10 as we go through. I've got some linebackers to mention here, but you see the list is plentiful, and there are a lot of guys that could really help this team here. Veteran guys, some young guys, maybe someone that just needs the right system. But yeah, man, I definitely think, guys like Anthony Walker, Quan Alexander's out there, Miles Jack, you guys have mentioned, Corey Littleton, Joe Thomas, Nick Vigil. I mean, obviously, Bobby Wagner's the cream of the crop there. But you've got a lot of options here. And again, there's a couple more pages. So you've got Grugier Hill out there, Cashman, Jayon Brown, Kwiatkowski, Morrow, Pierre Lewis, Ragland, Jalen Smith's out there. I mean, holy hell. I mean, for a position you need, even a guy like Deion Jones before he was hurt, really was a talented guy. And you see some options here. Jermaine Carter's there. You've got a lot of guys that Troy Reader that had, potential and then just kind of fell off. Eric Wilson, Andre Smith there. So definitely some options at linebacker. And I picked 4 of these guys to go with here. And look, I'll be real with you. I think that the Eagles will definitely be, I'm a moron. We went through 6 people, so we have 9 left. But I think the Eagles will definitely be looking into free agency. And I'm going to go with one of the guys you guys have been asking me about since he got released. So all day yesterday, you've been getting messages. What do you think about Miles Jack? Look, I don't think he's my top option, but if he could come in and if he could really just find that talent I thought he used to have, but yeah, I'll be honest, I haven't seen it the last couple of years in Jacks, and then this past year in Pittsburgh. Yeah, I mean, I used to think he was great in coverage. He was really athletic. I just think that you could give him a shot. If he would sign for cheap, why not? And man, because he is super talented. He's 27 years old, but if you could unlock that, man, he would be really nice to have. So you guys kind of talked me into it. Maybe I'd be okay with it. But there are a couple other options. And another guy, Jayon Brown, really talented before his injury. I thought really good in coverage, good against the run. I was excited about him in Tennessee. Went to Las Vegas last year, and I think, injuries hampered him a little bit. But I think he still has a lot of talent. And man, if you get him on the cheap, again, I'm looking at price tags here. I'm all about it. And then one more of the guys that I don't think would cost you that much, Anthony Walker. And that injury last year really hurt the Browns defense. He was brought in to be, the middle linebacker. And I really like this dude. And I think if he could stay healthy, I would be all aboard signing Anthony Walker. I'd actually be really pumped up. And maybe Sirianni, could put in a good word, whatever. But I would be all about getting Anthony Walker. I think he would be a perfect addition to the Philadelphia Eagles. He and Nakobe Dean together, Super Bowl or bust. Let's go. But the number one option you've got here, obviously, Bobby Wagner. You put Bobby Wagner with Nakobe Dean. Oh, yeah, I'm feeling pretty damn good. Even at the age of 32, 12th year, he is still balling. This dude, he is clearly, probably still, put him in the top 5 at least, top 3. This guy, he's phenomenal. So he's going to look for the right situation, and, well, that right situation would be coming to win a Super Bowl. So come on down, get you another ring. That would be fantastic. Let's go. Please, could you imagine getting Bobby Wagner with Nakobe Dean? Clearly gets me a little bit excited. So let me hear your thoughts, ladies and gentlemen. Who do you have on your list? Where do you want the Eagles to go in free agency? Clearly, we're going to get into the draft here in a week or so. But look, for me, free agency, there's still a lot of options. And you're hearing, what are they going to do here? It's like, well, they're going to do a lot of things. So we're looking at the free agents here. We're going to get into the draft then. And look, we got months to fill this roster out. So let me hear your thoughts on those linemen, those linebackers. We're now going to get into the secondary. So let's go. We've got 5 people left here. So the top 5 will be coming when it comes to position. And look, they're not in order of 15. It's just, obviously at each position I have them ranked. But at cornerback, we just signed one of my top options from last week when we did the free agency show. So I'm all about cornerback. I'm feeling good right now. Greedy Williams in the room. And you've got Zach McPherson, Josh Jobe. You've got Goodrich in there competing. You've got Josiah Scott competing. So there's options out here, but I don't think you necessarily, we talked about it. You don't have to go for any of those top guys. We've got our top guys back. So go get some depth pieces. And sure enough, we figured out the Slay situation. We got Greedy Williams. So unless you're in need, I mean, if you're someone else of a fan of another team, you've got lots of options here. And yeah, you could definitely get yourself a corner. And then here's another list. And, these guys, I think some of these guys, Artie Burns, obviously wouldn't cost you anything. He's got familiarity with this side. We talked about him last week. You could definitely throw him into the mix. But there are some guys that you just saw that can play nickel, but these guys played nickel mostly last year. Some of them, can play some safety here. You got guys like Lonnie Johnson who can do that. You've got Bryce Callahan. So definitely some options, and you're going to be, needing these versatile defensive backs in Deshaun Desai, almost a Deshaun Desai's defense here. So you see PJ Williams down there. Maybe if you lose CJ, you go ahead and grab PJ. But yeah, they're not the same. But he is a versatile defensive back coming from New Orleans. So, hey, you can see what you could do there. But I did not pick any cornerbacks. So, yeah, I just feel that position's good there. If you're going anywhere, it needs to be in that draft. So you've got young guys. You've got it all filled out there. Look into the draft. That's all I need to see. Now, safety, that's a much different story, as we all know. CJ Gardner-Johnson still trying to find a home, still trying to convince Howie Roseman to pay him more. The Bengals are trying. The Broncos are trying. I'm sure other teams are trying, and we're all praying that he signs with the Philadelphia Eagles. But he knows that these teams don't seem like they're going to fold. And, Jesse Bates is making like 16 mil per year. That puts him at like the fourth highest. And if he's asking for in that range, playing corner and, maybe they're trying to use that as leverage, like, oh, we want to pay you like a nickel corner. And he's saying, I can play two positions. I'm a stud safety, led the league in interceptions, even though I missed 5 games, but then they could use against him. Well, you missed 5 games. So it's going to be a battle royale. And I've talked about it. Maybe you try to pay him like 13 and a half, 14, and that's still hefty amount. But that if you could lock that dude up, and we talked about it, you give him that extension. Well, you give him not an extension. You sign him to a multi-year deal, and you give him the dummy years on the end so you can spread out those cap hits, and that's how we're able to build a contender. You keep kicking the can down the road, as people want to say, but it's like, dude, Howie knows what he's doing with that dead money. People don't even understand it. So it's like, just let him work. Let him cook, because, dude, he's cooking. And dude, if we can sign him to a multi-year deal, I'll be the happiest man on earth. But, it's a business. So these guys are going to look, he was one of the best. So I know he wants his money, but we're going to hope that he folds. That's what I hope for. A lot of guys, these lists will probably be waiting deep in the summer. Yeah, and that's what we talk about. You got to have patience. A lot of people think everybody needs to be signed first day, first week, and it's like, oh, Nelly, there's waves to this, baby. Let's ride those waves. But I think the Eagles' vision, they foresee there's, we're definitely going to be going all for offense and defensive side of the ball. Now let's get into these safeties here. You see, as I had mentioned, you lost Epps. You don't know if you're losing CJ. Love to have him back, but I would add to this room in the draft and possibly in free agency. So clearly we're begging the Lord for CJ Gardner-Johnson to come back. But you've got other options out here, as you can see. So Terrell Edmonds, Sean Chandler, Adrian Amos, Josh Johnson, LaMarcus Joyner, Owens, Neal, Mills is out there. And Jalen Mills saying, he wants to come back. Got Logan Ryan, Eric Rowe, Taylor Rapp. So there are actually a lot of options at safety, whether you're an Eagles fan or not. There are plenty of guys to choose from here. And then you see a second list of names to choose from. Jonathan Abram, maybe because his familiarity. We've talked about DeAndre Houston Carson, familiarity with Sean Desai. So maybe he tries to bring some of his guys with. And again, as I always mention, we're going to sign a waive and then wait till free agency or after the draft, when you have that next wave of free agency, you add a lot of these guys that are bottom of the tier. So look, I know everybody thinks it gets done in 1 week with free agency, but it's like, it is a process. So let's stay patient. But I'm going through this top remaining, and then I'll do this again in about like a week or two and show you who's left, and I'll keep you up to date with all this stuff. But let's jump it off. Number 5, we've got top 5 safeties here. Jonathan Owens. And I think this dude, undrafted in 18, in his 4 years, the last couple, he has been really good. And I think he would be fantastic to add in this Eagles secondary. Clearly, he's not CJ Gardner-Johnson, but if you lose him, you want to add a stud in the draft. You've got Reed Blankenship, Kayvon Wallace. They can all compete. I would be okay with that. Then number 4, you've got John Johnson, the third, thinking of the quarterback. He just got released, and they had talked about doing that. So we talked about him last week. But, third round pick who's got a lot of talent. He looked phenomenal in LA. And I think he looked good in Cleveland, too. And I think if you add him to this roster, I would be pretty okay with that, too. Now, honestly, you lose CJ, I'm going to be bummed, right? But I think any of these 5 would make me at least feel comfortable because it's actually, there's a lot of options out there. And at number 3, staying in the AFC North there, you've got yourself Terrell Edmonds. And I think, we talked about his brother at linebacker. This dude, I would actually feel pretty good with these top 3, even, Johnson or Owens. And again, none of them are CJ Gardner-Johnson. But honestly, I think even Ryan Neal here at safety 6'3", we talked about him last week. Another undrafted kid who knows to side. I think you bring him in. He started with Philly. This would be a perfect comeback story. Another Nick Foles coming back to win a Super Bowl. No, we didn't trade him. But anyways, you see that this kid, we talked about him, a beast, and he came out of nowhere these last couple of years, and especially last year. I think adding him, oh, yeah. And even if you get CJ Gardner-Johnson, if you can find a way to throw some money his way too, I would be all about it. Now, number 1 on the list, Taylor Rapp. And this dude, great in coverage, great tackler. I think he does it all. He's a perfect all-around safety. And if you're going to lose out on, obviously, the best guy in free agency, CJ Gardner-Johnson, I'll take the next best. And I think Taylor Rapp is that guy right now. Clearly, Jesse Bates is gone, so this is the dude for me. Coming into his 5th year, he's done on his rookie contract. He was a 2nd-round pick in 2019, and I think he could come to the Eagles and win himself a Super Bowl, and I'd be pretty happy about it. I think he would fit right in here if you're going to lose CJ Gardner-Johnson. So I'm going to stress over and over again that I would happily, and please for the love of God, let CJ Gardner-Johnson come home. I'm hoping 1 o'clock tonight, 2:30, 5 a.m. I don't care what you got to do, Howie. Get it done, however, whenever. But that was the remaining free agents there at all of the defensive positions and my top 15 targets for the Philadelphia Eagles. But I would love to hear your thoughts down below, whether you're watching it live, watching this later. I'm about to roll out. Told you I was going to try to keep it around 20. We're a little bit over, but got a bunch of things to do. Want to see the end of that Sixers game as well while I'm trying to do these things. But I appreciate each and every one of you taking the time. Yeah, you like that joke? And somebody's going to be watching like, oh, dude. It's like, all right, calm down. But I appreciate you, Liz. Hope you're having a great weekend. Appreciate all of you tuning in for Fan Friday last night. And I'm going to drop a video on the special teams, but I'm going to record it and drop it. It's obviously not going to be as much information like this, but it's going to show you all the positions, who's remaining. Going to keep it real with you, every damn position throughout this. And you can always go to those playlists, and it has all of the positions, whatever you're looking for. You're interested in linebackers, corners, but now this, obviously, you've got the best remaining. Those ones are obviously going to have everybody at the beginning. So we shall see. But the Eagles, they're not going anywhere. And obviously, trying to sign CJ is going to hold you back from signing a lot of these other back end guys, but we'll get there. Ecstatic for Neal Emmons pair with CJ would be a nice bridge. Yeah. And we talk about, maybe you get a couple of them if you lose CJ and allow them to compete with Reed Blankenship and Kayvon Wallace. And that I would feel better about, but you really got to go in the draft here. That's how I feel strongly, but I'm with you, Anish David, my man. I think that I'm scared, but I think that we can get it done. And if we don't, there are options available. And I don't want to say it like, oh, you can just go ahead and fill right in for CJ, but you can make it happen. And if you have more money to do other things, then it's not necessarily a bad thing. And that's what they're probably trying to get across to him. Like, hey, man, if you want us to sign other people and go win this effing Super Bowl, let's run it back. And I'm all about it. Now, I know he's a young man and he wants to get paid, and he definitely earned it. So figure it out tonight. Whatever you got to do, but you're going to give us all a damn heart attack this weekend because it's obviously all anyone is thinking about. Keep checking our phones, waking up in the middle of the night to text about the most random crap, and it's like, damn it, I just want to know about CJ Gardner-Johnson. But that's all I've got for you tonight. If you got anything from this video, do me a favor, hit that like button down below. You can always subscribe if you haven't yet. Join us live while we're talking birds, and if anything crazy happens tonight, I'll be back. If not, I'll be back tomorrow. But yeah, appreciate you tuning in. Hope you had a great St. Patrick's Day. Hope you have a great rest of your weekend. But until next time, I am Jimmy Smith, and this is On the Road to Victory. You stay safe out there, ladies and gentlemen. And as always, say it with me. Go Birds!